Hello and welcome. We're having a lot of fun here in Stuttgart Regional for Pokemon Trading Card Game. My name is Mike and I'm here with Shay, and we are about to go into round 10. But before we do, how are you feeling about day one?
I'm feeling super excited. We managed to get some new decks on stream, some successful, some unsuccessful, unfortunately. But looking at some of these day 2 decks, it's very interesting. Not quite the Lugia domination we expected.
I mean, there is a lot of Lugia out there, but at the top where the decks are starting to win several games, 7, 8 wins, there's a lot of Mew in there, a little bit of Lost Box, some Spice as well.
Yeah.
You might see some Mewtwo V Union. We've also got the beautiful Articuno deck that I'm now a massive fan of. So lots of variety in the top of the game here for the meta-analysis. But we are here at one of the biggest regionals we've ever had in Europe, and they are competing for a lot of prizes, for CP, for money. We are going to be seeing exactly what they're competing for right now. Break it down for me, Shay.
Yeah, so if you win the whole regional, you get 200 CP. And remember, if you're in the EU, all you need is 350 for your invite. So that's pretty much there. Second place, you get 160. Then top 4, 130. But don't forget that money, though. Oh, my goodness. So if you was to win this Stuttgart regional, which all these players here in day 2 have the chance of, $5,000.
And I love the fact that 201 plus is the threshold for the top prize money, because we are exceeding 200 very consistently at regionals, almost quadrupling it on every regional so far this season. So very much the big numbers here. And I always like to look at those packets down at the bottom. I do like a good booster pack, me. So lots of packs on the line too. So this is what they're competing for here at Stuttgart Regional. We are in round 10 of the Swiss, where we've got 5 more rounds of Swiss, and then we'll be making that top cut into the top 8, where we'll be finding out who is your Stuttgart Regional winner. We've had a beautiful weekend so far with Toronto last night. We got to go and watch some of that gameplay over there.
Yeah.
Also, Brisbane has concluded as well. So there's so much Pokemon going across the world right now, but we are here in Germany to see who's going to be coming out on top in the European region.
Yeah, very excited that Brisbane regional has wrapped up, and it was actually the Articuno deck, I believe, taking it all home. So could that be a little precursor for here as well? Because we actually, I think, have it on for our next round, don't we?
Yeah, my new favourite player, Magnus Pedersen. As soon as I watched that last game, and I'm starting to grow and love certain players since I've come into the casting, and seeing that deck being played and the way Magnus piloted it, and the creativity in the deck, I'm an instant fan, and I'm going to be holding back my fanboy in this next game when we get to see him playing. Who's he up against, though?
He's up against a good friend of mine, actually, Logan Madden, with the 9th place finish, I should say, at Liverpool, the last Liverpool regionals. Fantastic, played really well in seniors, aged up a year or so ago, and he's still been really good. He was in top 22 contention last year for the longest of times. Make no mistake about it, fantastic player. Actually on table 1. He was on table 1 pretty much the whole day yesterday.
Yeah, he's been
couldn't
chilling
quite
over
get
there
him on stream, but now we have, and he's playing a Lugia deck.
And well-earned top spot there. He's been playing very well. Like you said, stayed at table 1 the whole day. And he's got, like you said, the Lugia V-Star. He's come out of LAIC and gone, I'm going to form the perfect Lugia V-Star deck that's consistent and come into this and try and play it. And so far it's done very well. We have seen about 38% conversion into day 2. So I'd probably say Lugia is similar numbers to what we saw at LAIC. But now there's a lot more decks that are beating it. So it's not the top percentage of the day 2 decks. It's sort of filling out the bottom chunk, the people who are on 19 points. So very different position for Lugia here, as it's got that target on its back.
Yeah, I think now that players know that Lugia was the force to be reckoned with in Stuttgart, they've all, they've got their weapons ready to combat it. And like you said, if you're looking at the sort of top seeds, there was a lot more Lugia counters. You had like Articuno, talks up a lot of Lost Box towards the top.
The Zeraora,
yeah, the Lost Box.
Judges.
Yeah, Ooh. Judges, got the judges in Mew and thinking, right, let's see if we can get involved. Speaking of Mew, actually, there's quite a lot of Mew, about 25% in day 2. A split mostly towards DTE, but there was some Fusion Mews there as well.
It's all right, it's all right. I know you're more of a fan of the Fusion Mew, but that DTE Mew with the disruption has been working wonders. Having part of the peak in there, the Lost City great against the Lost Box matchup, where you can start removing the most important attackers, especially things like Charizard, which you're worried about. So a great opportunity for Mew to come through, and it relies a little bit on the disruption working. But as we know, Marnie Path, Roxanne's, all great cards to win you games.
Yeah, for sure. And we even saw a whole lot of control as well dotted about. But I think we're going to go straight into our game there. There we go, Logan.
Oh, there he is. It's my boy. Oh, sorry, I said I was going to hold it back.
I thought you were talking about Logan. He's my boy.
Right, hang on. Before this, we're not meant to have favourites, but seeing as Logan's your boy and Magnus is mine, I say he's my boy. I've never spoken to him. I'm just a big fan of him now after that last game. There's a little bit of a competition between you and I here. I'm all backing Magnus, and I genuinely believe he's got the favourable matchup here with his Articuno deck.
No, I do believe that Logan is with the Lugia V-Star, done really well, top seed for the longest of time yesterday, but I don't believe he has a switch out in this deck, so it's going to be Magnus's game to lose, I believe, but anything can happen. We saw auto paralysis damaging himself. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle that Magnus needs to sort of keep in line, and looking at these prize cards, we see a V-Star, an Archeops, a DT, a bit of energy there for Logan. For Magnus, well, we saw him on stream last time. He had some dangerous prizes, and this doesn't look as bad. A Scoop Up Net, a Drizzle, and Irida probably being the biggest, the worst prizes there.
Yeah, the Scoop Up Net and the Drizzle are quite a lot worse than people might think looking at it. There are 3 of them both in the deck, but when we saw him chaining that Articuno, it was very much, I have to get this Scoop Up Net at the right time. Yeah. I have to get another Drizzle at the right time. So maybe having lack of access to those might affect his chaining later on. But as you mentioned, so many pieces to this puzzle, but with the Inteleon line, one of the few decks in the meta right now that is using the Inteleon line, it can teeter out exactly what it needs at the exact moments it needs them.
Yeah, we've seen how powerful that Inteleon line has been throughout the whole season, all the way back from season restart, all the way back in the Australian regionals, you had Arc Intel and Palk Intel, and for whatever reason recently it sort of lost a bit of popularity, with Mew not needing it, Lugia obviously not needing it, but now we're seeing that resurgence. And our funny story, I remember back in the Sword and Shield pre-release all the way back, I remember looking at these Inteleon lines thinking, this will be good at some point, surely. To search any trainer from your deck, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and it even had the little Urshifu Inteleon phase, and then there was
true,
the Dragapult Inteleon, the Jolteon Inteleon. So there was a period of time where if you didn't have an Inteleon, you were
stuck.
You were stuck, and those Drizzles are such a key factor in that, because the big shady dealing Inteleon normally only a 1, maybe 2 of in decks, but the Drizzles are the ones where you can keep consistently putting them down, keep scooping them up and resetting that Sobble to make it an easy out to whatever trainer you need. And then we see there that Articuno down straight away. Logan having a little read of it, just calculating in his head of, hang on, I don't play any switch outs. How do I deal with this?
Yeah, could get a little bit suspect there for Logan. I've actually got an interesting fact for you there, Mark. I'm sure someone in the chat's going to correct me on this, but I think I was the first person to play the Inteleon lines all the way back in the video years ago, ADP Inteleon. It was a little bit of a fun deck, but I think that was the first use, so... little history lesson
I respect
there for
that.
people.
I'm sure there was some guy in a local who was like, I packed a lot of Drizzles. I'm just gonna chuck it in a deck, and then they started winning. It was like, hang on a minute,
wait a minute, once
you're
a winner
onto something. Yeah, because I remember back when Dragapult Inteleon became quite popular. I played that at a local event, which ended up winning because Urshifu was everywhere. The only reason I played it is because it was in the promo, so I was like, it's easy to get the Dragapult. So I came into it, and everyone was like, hang on a minute, this is busted. And then 2 weeks later, it was popular. Sometimes you do stumble upon these winning combinations just because of accessibility, but here these guys are not thinking about accessibility. They're thinking about how they can get the optimal deck, and Lugia definitely an example of hard to get hold of. New deck, new cards. You need 4 ofs of Lugias, 4 ofs of Archeops. These guys prioritize getting a hold of them, knowing that it's going to be one of the best decks.
Yeah, and I think Lugia V-Star in combination of Archeops just brought so many random cards to be super playable. Cards like Yveltal, amazing rare. Saw 0 play, way too expensive. Now insanely strong. Stoutland, that was a bulk V card. Now, almost a staple in the Lugia deck.
I put it in my binder. I was like, I'm never going to need that one day. And then there we go. I brought it back out for trades because it's so good. And yeah, as you mentioned, the options that are available is what makes Lugia so scary, because even if people do find a way to counter it, it can start changing itself to be prepared for the future meta. And one of the big things we saw with this matchup that's really interesting is the lack of switch outs.
Yes.
And now I do wonder if in the future the switch outs will become more important, but what we see here already with the way Logan's playing is he's not evolved yet. Obviously it's his first turn. We'll see whether he does evolve, because if it doesn't evolve within range of Palkia, if he does evolve, then it's going to be able to be paralyzed consecutively. So at this early stage, Magnus might look to punish that by getting that Palkia ready and prepared. Otherwise, he's going to start thinking about the paralysis chain later on.
Yeah, for sure. It's really interesting because Logan he is going to have to evolve at some point to do the summoning star. But you're right, as long as those Lugias are still basic. You do have an out to paralysis. Probably the only way Logan has out to paralysis. And in case you guys don't know, if you wasn't catching the stream yesterday, what this Magnus's deck is built to do, there is that Articuno there on the bench with its Wild Freeze attack, which for 2 energy does 70 damage, does 50 damage to itself, and then it paralyzes your opponent. And then what you do, you combo that with 1 copy of Emergency Jelly, another bulk card that is now really meta. It's a tool card, and when it's attached to a Pokemon that has 30 HP or less, you get 120 health back, I believe, and then you heal, and then you discard the tool, so allowing you to get multiple paralysis off the same Articuno.
And we see all the Sobble coming out there with the keep calling. So vital to get a massive line of that Inteleon, because you will be looking to get as many quick shootings out as possible.
Yes.
You want to get 2 down. The reason being, when you start that paralysis chain, you need to finish off the Pokemon in the active spot with a quick shooting, and then that way you can start the paralysis chain on the next Pokemon. So you have to get a massive line. It also opens up lots of outs to find exactly what you need, which is really important in this deck. So focusing more on the Drizzle chaining on the Sobbles and getting that Inteleon ready than anything else.
Yeah, the sort of Sobbles and Inteleons are crucial. That's why we see 2 copies of quick shooting here in the Magnus's deck, which is quite uncommon normally, but when you have to try and what you try and do is finish off a Pokemon with quick shooting, so Logan then has to promote the next one, and you can start to paralyze lock here. We actually saw this archetype being played a little bit in Toronto as well, but they opted to use 1 copy of Raging Alakazam as well to help move around damage. So it's definitely an interesting archetype that seems to have multiple ways of playing it, which is really good considering this is the first week we've seen it and we're already seeing multiple variants.
Yeah, Articuno coming out in Silver Tempest. I'm sure a lot of people, when they saw Articuno down, were like, oh, has that been around for a while? But
yeah,
it snuck into Silver Tempest, and an overlooked card, and paralysis is always good in Pokemon. It's just such a powerful effect if your opponent doesn't have switch outs. Can be great with hand disruption because it takes away switch out potential. But then when we look at a lot of decks like Lost Engine, they have to find a different way around that matchup. So what's so beautiful about this deck that Magnus is piloting here is there's so many different ways you have to play it. There's things like the Drapion in there for the Mew matchup to help in that case. You've got the Palkia, which is great at being a bulky attacker that can hit big numbers. And then we have just got things like Manaphy to protect from Greninja. The Greninja to work in the single prize matchups like Lost Box. So we'll see whether that all works out. But it looks like here the Lugia V-Star has done exactly what we want it to do, what we expect it to do. 2 Archeops out. We have a Lugia in the active with all the energy needed. And then Lugia on the bench starting to get powered up potentially by that second Archeops. Was that a capture energy to...
Yes, I believe that was a capture to the bench, yeah. And
there we go.
Love Logan using, I think that's like a euro or a cent for one of his ability use markers.
Well, we got those lovely ability markers at the top there.
Yeah, they are fantastic.
They got a Greninja in there, a few Genesect, some flower selecting markers.
Some Comfeys, yeah.
And then the Archeops too. And we've been thoroughly enjoying that because there are some players who like to turn the cards sideways.
Yep.
So often people indicate an ability use by a sort of 10-degree turn to the side.
Yeah, that's it.
Some players take that to the extreme and almost put their Pokemon in paralysis or something a little bit worse. But you see there actually the Articuno getting knocked out, which is a great start there for Logan to try and disrupt that initial chain of Articunos.
Yeah, for sure. And he only played 2 copies of Boss. He played 2 copies of Serena. So being able to actually, because Serena can't get non-rule box Pokemon, well, non-V Pokemon, I should say, he wouldn't be able to access any of them. But Magnus actually has the copy of Raihan here, so we might be able to start seeing his paralyzed lock as early as, what is this, turn 3 for him. Fantastic start. And here we see that Wild Freeze. Raihan, such an amazing supporter. You can use it if your Pokemon got knocked out last turn, allowing you to attach an energy from a discard pile. Not only that, I mean, it'd be good if it was just that as well, but lets you grab any card from the deck, a computer search, a Forest Hill Stone, as it were. Amazing supporter.
And again, that's how this deck is built. It's built around every scenario. So there is a lot of one-offs. And the advantage you got with the Inteleon 9 is you can search exactly what you need when you need it. And actually going to be getting the Drizzle there with the Raihan, so to help continue searching. And at this stage, in order to get that first quick shooting off, he would need to rare candy it into play. But he might be able to just sit and wait because with the paralysis lock, you got so much time to do it.
Yeah, paralysis is something you don't really see a lot in Pokemon. Pokemon tend to be really careful of how they give you auto paralysis because it is so strong. Paralysis basically locking up your opponent for a turn. You can't attack, you can't retreat. You're basically stuck in the active card, meaning that in the active spot, I should say. So if you haven't got a switch card, a Bird Keeper switch, a Skate Rope, a switch card, even any of those, you can't do anything. And that's why it's so deadly.
Yeah, the only other way that Lugia V-Star will try and get around it is that evolution. Once a Pokemon
Yes.
gets evolved, it loses all its special conditions, or I guess it recovers from all its special
Yes.
conditions. And so in this case, we see that Lugia V on the bench. At some point, Logan might try and bring that into the chain. But again, it's only one opportunity to do that. Same thing with the Switch out. It's only one opportunity to do that. And with how many Articuno are in this deck, there's potential to chain it even after it's been knocked out. So, yeah, we see here the first paralysis happens, and this is where we're going to be watching. Can Logan get out of the paralysis lock?
I'm not sure if it's possible this turn. Looking at his list, we did see some Lugia list player copies of Birdkeeper. That would obviously be great in this scenario, but we don't see that. And I guess the Lugia decks, at least for now, coming off the back of LIC, just for if we want to retreat, we just pay retreat. We have so much energy, we can just attach and retreat, which is fair enough, right? But then, you know, that gets punished by paralysis. And we even saw that in Brisbane. You know, we saw not only the Articuno deck making top 8 and I believe taking it home, but we also saw the fluffy Zekrom. Zekrom's almost pretty much exactly the same as Articuno, but it does a lot more damage. And it is really interesting to see these players really realize, wait, this can be a weakness for Lugia and target with a paralysis. Here we see the massive, big, shady dealings in Terran. Grab them 2 trainer cards, and let's see what Magnus chooses.
I should suspect the rare candy route to get quick shooting in is going to be required here, because we mentioned yesterday how the maths works here. So you've got 70, 70, 70 from the 3 paralysis in a row, which is 210. That will leave another 80 hit points of quick shooting you need to do. So by the time you've done 3 paralysis, you need to do 4 quick shooting. So needs to have a turn now where he has 2 quick shooting happen. Also needs to integrate that emergency jelly in to recover the Articuno. But you see there the quick shooting and the emergency jelly coming out, and a lot of people are going to be reading that card because they haven't seen that in a while.
Logan.
And they're like, I wondered why that was being spoken about on social media.
Yeah, talk about cards that everyone overlooked in the what's it called, set reviews, right? No one looked at emergency jelly. Is that a Silver Tempest card? I think it is, right? Yeah, it is a Silver Tempest card.
It's crazy, isn't it? How these cards come out, and you're wondering, have I opened this recently, or has this been in my binder for a while? But there we see that rare candy, and that's going to be coming out with that Drizzle that just got scooped up.
Look how silly the Inteleon decks are. Like, we went from a Shady Dealings, which grabbed an Irida and an Emergency Jelly, I believe. And then the Irida can find you Pokemon and another item. It just gets a little bit out of hand, doesn't it? These Shady Dealings decks. All of a sudden, you're searching for cards left, right, and center. And Logan can't even do anything right now. And Magnus is just like, I'll grab this, I'll grab this, I'll grab this. Just gets a bit silly.
And people were saying the Inteleon line struggles now because of Sableye. You know, Sableye calls out Sobbles on the bench. You can get 2 knockouts with Sableye. Can even knock out those Drizzles as they're building up. I mean, you can take away those options. You've even got the Greninja that's able to take out 2 Drizzles or Sobbles. So there is a lot of ways for the Inteleon line to be punished. But it's also in a great spot because Serena is the main form of Gust that people are using in a lot of decks. So that can't affect the Inteleon line. So right now, Magnus has got that paralysis, which you'll see there. Turn to the right. You remember the way we said yesterday to remember it?
Wait, sleep has an L, so it goes to the left.
Yeah. Paralysis has an R, so it goes to the right. So
there we go.
That's from Alex. Anyone at home who's wondering which way's which for the paralysis and sleep. And so Articuno starting this chain here. And anyone who hasn't seen this deck yet, you're about to see how it works.
Yeah, for sure. And it's almost like a borderline control deck. Like if you see like a Sander deck, for example, you try and get like no cards in deck, and then you make a loop with like Stylene recently or Team Yell's Cheer, and you just repeat. There's almost reminds me of this, except you're providing offensive punch. Right? You can actually take prizes, right? Because your idea is, if I just keep this paralysis loop up in combination with a quick shooting to get the KO, I can just keep paralyzing whatever you put in the active spot, and unless you can get around it, I just win.
Yeah, and to have a backup attacker of a Palkia V-Star, it's not a bad way to go about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if when we start seeing this lock get towards the end, we might see the benched Lugia get put up to try and get the evolution out. And then that might be the point where Magnus times a Palkia down to try and knock it out. So thinking ahead is so key for Magnus's deck here, and it's so important that he gets those Inteleon decisions right, tracks his resources, and doesn't waste them. And at this point, Logan's just going to try and disrupt as much as possible because he knows in Magnus's hand is everything he possibly needs to play the next turn out. So if he can get a Marnie off, it might be enough to slow down the Articuno chain.
Yeah, that might be what Logan opts to do here. And just on cue, that's the only way you can sort of disrupt this sort of lock now, is just hope that on the back of a Marnie, 4 cards for Magnus, he's not going to be able to continue this lock. And I guess that's the one equaliser, like we said, with like the 4 DTE Muse. You can sometimes win your bad matchup just by making sure your opponent can't do what they want. So Logan is looking at that emergency jelly again now.
Yeah, just in case there's another one in the
list.
list.
Yeah, just in case another one. I'm surprised it's actually only 1 copy, but I guess like you alluded to, you only need to take 4 prizes with this Articuno quick shooting chain, because then the power cake just comes down in subspace wells and just takes the last 2 on a Luminion or a basic V Pokemon. So Logan, it might be an interesting wrinkle to watch out for if Logan opts to keep his bench narrow. I imagine he knows that there's going to be power cubes knocking about, and we saw when it was on stream yesterday that the power cake just comes down late game and just cleans up. It's very capable of hitting 280 damage, right? Choice Bell, 4 bench pro or 5 bench Pokemon, Magnus' side, 4 on the other side, does hit 280. So Logan might be thinking of that as well.
And with that Luminion down, that provides another target to start the paralysis lock on. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter what Logan puts forward if at the time Magnus has enough Inteleon access, because he can just get out the boss's orders or the Serena at the exact moment he needs it.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, normally with these Lugia decks, if Luminion comes down, it can actually go away just as easily, right? With Aqua Return, you can actually attack with it, but that won't be possible. If Magnus times his quick shootings right, Logan won't be able to ever pull off an Aqua Return. So it's a bit of a necessary evil there for Logan putting it into play, because on one hand, it's very easy 2 prizes for Magnus, but on the other hand, it might get him that Marnie to disrupt Magnus. Magnus does get down the Radiant Greninja concealed cards. Is that going to get Magnus out of this little pickle potentially?
That shows us 3 cards that he had in that hand off the Marnie. One of them was a Quick Ball, 1 Battle VIP Pass, and 1 Water Energy. And you can see what that's created. It's created this, I need to start drawing out because I don't have everything I need. Does have the ability to paralyze, but that might not work out numbers-wise in terms of setting up that next lock, because that's the key here with the deck, is using that quick shooting to finish off Pokemon.
Yeah, so it looks like that Lugia's on what, 612, 180?
250, I think. So that's 2 quick shooting pings to finish it off. And so if he activates the quick shooting ability twice, then it's a knockout. He's got 1 available. We'll need to find the second one, which would either be possible through a scoop up net or finding another one. Or at this point, might look to gust up a bench Pokemon and start the chain in another one, and then look to quick shooting it on the bench.
Just quick shooting it later, because I mean, I guess Magnus isn't to know if Logan plays a Cheren's Care. Cheren's Care would punish that strategy heavily, but I think Magnus probably assumes that if that Luminion targets a Marnie instead of a Burkeeper or Cheren's, Logan probably doesn't play either of those. So that could actually be a strategy Magnus opts to go down. If he can't quite manipulate it right, boss up something else and we'll just finish it later.
And it's interesting, at this stage on a day 2, you kind of know who the likely targets are for your first matchups. So some of these players might have gone away and done their research. We had Magnus on stream yesterday, so Logan's probably gone away and found out exactly what he's up against and thought through a strategy that he might be able to pull off. And so at this stage, he's shown some of his tactics. Keep the Lugia V ready to evolve. Use the Marnie to try and disrupt a turn. And other than that, there's not a huge amount in his list he can do. And ultimately, this deck from Magnus has called out, I don't want to say greedy lists from Lugia, but the current successful lists from Lugia that don't have a switch out.
Yeah, no, I think it's safe to say they could be a bit greedy. They're just sort of well optimized just to do their game plan, haven't taken into account, potential counters or wrinkles. And it'd be really interesting to see what Magnus draws here. We do see the concealed cards off the back of a capacious bucket. Does Magnus draw what he needs to get this perfect lock off here, or is he going to have to go to like a plan B? One interesting is that it looks like Logan's attaching to an Archeops, and if he promotes that, well, there's 1 quick shooting. There's a boss, and you were right. Yeah, he's just going to try and start working on the next one, which is going to be that Luminion. I was about to say Logan looked like he was maybe going to send in an Archeops, I should say, which is something Magnus probably doesn't want to deal with. That's 150 HP. It's going to take a few paralyzes to actually lock up, and it only gives up 1 prize. And these Articunos, you've got a limited amount, right, because they hurt themselves, only 1 emergency jelly. But Magnus thought about that and says, right, let's just start working on this Luminion instead.
So the Luminion is 170 hit points, so that's 2 paralysis locks plus 2 pings from the quick shooting. So right now, in order to finish off both the Luminion and the Lugia, there would need to be 3 quick shootings in play, which next turn would within 2 turns. So within the next 2 turns, Magnus needs to find a way to get another quick shooting out. And there's
a
going
level
to be
ball.
Drizzle out. So this should start that chain back up for Magnus. So the second Marnie that's in Logan's deck will need to be used at some point to try and again disrupt that plan.
And it looks like, I'm not sure if Logan has good cards in hand or if he's just deciding to hold them as, since he can't play it, he can't attack anyway. But yeah, if that mine doesn't come down soon, then this is, wait a second. Oh, he's prized his last Drizzle, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
We spoke about that at the start and how important at some point it might be that Drizzle would come through. Yeah. And the same thing with the scoop up net. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. Drizzles are so key in this matchup, and you are frequently going to need to use all 3. So he's actually just using that level ball to thin out the mana fee to improve the concealed cards out.
What's he got? Oh, what was that? Was that Raihan? No.
Well, Raihan's not going to be useful now. Raihan's not going to be useful right now because the the knockouts aren't coming his way. So Raihan very much a revenge strategy early on. But you can see the Pal Pad just to bring back another gust effect, get in that Iridus to improve outs to options that are needed. But as we mentioned, one of the big outs is that Drizzle in the prizes. Yeah. And it's not going to be taken anytime soon.
And I guess there you see some of the concessions from a normal Palkia list that you're having to cut into some of these cards. Like there's only 1 boss here, there's only 3 Drizzle. Because you have to fit in these Articunos, these emergency jellies, these rare candies, these wash energies as well to help for Lost Box. You need to fit these in somehow, and there's some of the concessions, a 3rd Drizzle, unfortunately. And, quick shooting on the back.
There we go.
2 prize cards.
Didn't get the
Drizzle, though, unfortunately. Or the scoop up net, both of them would have been fantastic in that scenario.
Exactly, and this is where we're going to start wondering how's he going to finish the game. So
Hulk, Drapion, Bucket, Raihan. No, that's not a great hand.
No, it's not a great hand. So that Marnie really has done work. It has. Concealed cards haven't come through, but he's going to...
He knocks himself out to paralyze the Luminion.
Oh, wow. So that paralysis will come through. The Articuno knocks itself out. It does give a prize card to Logan, but still he's in that lock. And we said about the Luminion, it's now 30 hit points away from being knocked out. 140 damage, 170 hit points. Needs 2 quick shooting pings to get that down. We'll have access to 1, but with that hand we saw, I don't think there's going to be access to another one. But ultimately, this whole chain has worked very effectively for him. Yeah. And at this point, really needs to get that knockout on the Luminion no matter what, because otherwise it can heal all that damage off with its attack Aqua Return.
I'll be intrigued to see if Logan tries to keep his bench narrow here, because I have to imagine that Magnus might have to start putting down the Palkia now and saying, right, I'm going to have to try and get my last 2 prizes with that. So let's see what Logan targets with his Ultra Ball here. We could see a V-Star. We could see a basic. He might just be looking to see what resource he has left, to be honest. And we see a Stoutland. I imagine that probably isn't going to get put in play. But I guess, it could be some powerful energies. Yeah, could get with the Sobbles. But, this Lumion has to get out of the way for that. But then I guess Magnus does have the Raihan in hand if anything does go crazy.
Do you know what we might see? We might see a water drip from the Drizzle because that just needs 1 water energy to knock out the Luminion. That would break the paralysis lock, and at this point, both Articunos are in the discard pile. So the only way to get them back in would be through an ordinary rod, which there is 1 of in the deck.
Yes.
So there is a way for Magnus to get that paralysis lock back on. But at this stage, he's probably going to be more focused around how can he get that Palkia out to get that final blow on the Lugia to win the game.
When the Stoutland does come down, that might be really impactful. Because we saw in the last, when we had this on stream, Magnus was able to just utilize to get a KO with Palkia plus Choice Belt onto a Lugia V-Star. I'm not 100% sure if the V-Guard has been used. I believe it might be on the first Lugia V-Star, actually. So that, oh no, it's on the bench one, actually. I apologize. So, interesting. Like we saw when we had this on stream, actually, the Stoutland was a key target for Magnus, because it can't evolve and just locks it up. So let's see what Logan does here. We see it collapsed. That's actually quite interesting. That would actually deny the Palkia coming down at all. And that would be a really interesting scenario there for Magnus. I think Logan might be debating whether to play that.
Yeah, because the Palkia coming down, not only is Palkia great because it's a big hitter, but it doesn't require any attachment. So you can leave it there and Star Portal at the turn where you plan to attack with it. So as long as it's down for 2 turns, you've got that guaranteed attack off in the next one. Which is why it's such a good late game attacker. We did see the quick ball in hand last turn and a Palkia V-Star.
Yes.
So there is access to it. If this water drip comes off and the Palkia goes down without being gusted up, then it might be safe. And that's the real question. If he puts that Palkia down, will it be able to survive 2 turns?
That is 100% correct. And I guess Magnus does have access to a Capacious Bucket and another Concealed Card. I have to imagine Magnus can't miss outs to Inteleons for much longer, I believe. But
there is another route that could be possible here. So after getting that Water Drip, takes 2 prizes, knows he might get access to either the Drizzle or the Scoop Up net. Then he's going to start thinking, how can I begin that chain again? Because that might get access to the Ordinary Rod through Shady Dealings. Then that starts beginning that chain that he's looking to do. Might get access to double quick shooting, which could be helpful. So there's all these things that actually getting this Luminion knockout with Water Drip could open up a lot of options next turn.
So I'm guessing, was that an Irida off the top? Looks like he's moved Shady Dealings and a Scoop Up. Oh, just a Scoop Up.
Is that the Shady Dealing Inteleon could be so key here.
I'm trying to think. I'm guessing he played an Irida. I'm assuming. Yes, so he top decks Irida. Fantastic. And there we do see the Palkia come down. So
Palkia Scoop Up.
So we saw that the collapse stadium from Logan might have been able to prevent this play, but it might be a little bit too late. But then I guess now the collapse stadium can remove 2 Pokemon.
He's getting 2 Palkia.
I was going for
so
2
if
Palkia.
he puts 2 Palkia down, that guarantees one of them survives for that next turn, which will be an amazing position. And with the Scoop Up net that he's found access to, can get access to double quick shooting here, potentially. And so then we might start seeing sprinkling of damage maybe on the Lugia to make sure it gets in range. There's all sorts of checkmate positions Magnus can put himself in with those Palkia down.
I wonder if we see a quick shooting into the active. We might even see an Aqua Bullet here.
It looks like he did do it into the active because it's on 160.
There's the KO, 2 prizes. I wonder if we see an Aqua Bullet into whatever Logan promotes.
Okay, so...
Or we could even see a big Shady Dealings into the boss and could put some damage on the Stoutland. I'm guessing Palkia comes down now. Yeah, double Palkia.
I mean, he's got the big Shady Dealing that he can put into the active, which he can then potentially scoop up. And it'll be interesting to see whether that is useful for anything. I mean, at this stage, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like he might look to attack with the Shady Dealings Inteleon in the active spot and start getting 120 damage onto a Archeops.
Oh no, we see an energy to the benched Palkia. Oh no, reconsider.
Okay, so there is only 6 water energy in Magnus's deck, so that
and he has
Capacious
seen
Bucket,
a lot, yeah.
I don't think we'll find any. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but we've seen quite a lot go into the discard pile with the concealed cards. And you can see right now Magnus just, I think, passing there.
It looks like a pass, yeah. Opts not to attach the energy.
As we mentioned, those 2 Palkia down. If one of them gets knocked out, the other one is available for the return knockout. Having access to quick shooting could be key. But, we saw that active Pokemon get knocked out by quick shooting, where now there's a scenario where that Lugia could get evolved from the bench and be just out of range of a knockout.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. And Logan is definitely debating. Well, probably wasn't expecting to be able to potentially get an attack off here. Here we see the Radiant Czar come down. Always a great option. Does he have access to a Serena or something like this?
There's a lot to ask of Logan here, especially as he's got to find the ability to get Gust as well as... Oh, Collapse Stadium.
I think Collapse always comes down.
Greninja?
That's going to make it hard. I think probably Greninja and... Whoa, that's a tough decision.
I think needs access to the Shady Dealing line to find exactly what he needs rather than this situation. And we saw that last time he played.
The Stoutland's probably going to be Magnus's way to victory there. That's the easiest 2 prizes to take. And obviously that goes with the Collapse. So maybe holding on to the Collapse there was more impactful than putting it down last time.
Yeah, and there's that Charizard, which is a potential knockout, which forces not only the Palkia to attack, but it also forces the Palkia to have to attack into a single prize. So we might see the Gust effect needed. And again, that's where that Inteleon line is so key, and it gives everything Magnus could possibly need. And actually in this position, looking at the board state, I feel like Logan wants to attack into the Drizzle to take away the Shady Dealing Inteleon package and put him in a stronger position to not get what he needs next turn.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if this Drizzle goes down, which I have to imagine it probably does, you're right, being able to deny that Shady Dealings that Magnus has in hand, and we know Magnus only plays 1 rare candy, and I believe we've seen it already as well.
Yeah, it was early on for quick shooting.
So, yeah, Magnus is in a bit of trouble there, because that Lugia, because it's got the V-Star on, it's going to be outside of range. We see a Serena into the Palk. Wow. So
I guess that if you knock out the Drizzle, it does mean the speed of play. To knock out the Drizzle, you still have to take 2 more knockouts. So it would give Magnus a bit more time to set up. But at this point, we do see the Palkia on the bench, and we see the Drizzle still available for search.
So it looks like we might even just see an Aqua Bullet now, actually. So we see a Star Portal going for like 2 energies on the bench, Palkia, 1 to the active, so you can KO this child. I'd leave a 1 Prizer in the active as well and really force the issue. The Palkia V-Star does come down, often seen as a real late game option in this sort of Articuno deck. Just come in just to take those last 2 prizes with that Subspace War attack, which we all know is strong, right? 60 plus 20 for each bench Pokemon in play.
Yeah, and for Magnus, there's a boss and a Serena in the deck, and we saw the boss get put back in.
Yes.
With the was it the PAL pad earlier on? And I don't think the Serena's been played yet, so there is access to that Gust effect. We see the quick shooting Inteleon available. That's a damage modifier on the Lugia, but the Lugia does have the V-Guard energy. So in order to get that knockout, you have to be hitting 310 damage, which is quite hard for a Palkia V-Star with this many bench Pokemon.
Yeah, we could even just see like a Serena into the Lugia and just Aqua Bullet into that. I mean, that seems fine as well, right? The Lugia can't be healed. So,
I mean, it's within range with 2 quick shooting, but then that takes away the ability to use the Shady Dealing Inteleon, as there are 2 quick shooting Inteleons in the deck for Magnus. So yeah, we're in a very interesting position now where Logan is, 1 attack away from winning the game if that Palkia does get a knocked out next turn. Okay, so
here we go. Here's the big Shady, and this could hopefully give us some clues into what he's thinking. We see the choice button of Serena. It looks like we do see the Serena. I wanted this to be an Aqua Bullet, and there's the concession. Yeah, I think Serena into the Lugia would be a little bit too hard for Logan to come back from, because that Subspace Swell would have been able to just clear up, even if he had to just get another Shady to grab the boss to get it back. Palkia coming through in the clutch again.
I'm interested to see the maths there. So the Lugia would have been... I feel like the Lugia could have tanked that.
Oh, yeah, I think Magnus was trying to 2-shot it. He had 2 prizes left, so he'll attack it with an Aqua Bullet. Logan then responds, and then the Palkia just finishes it off. Okay. And then if Logan then goes for the Palkia V-Star on the boss, Aqua Bullet just 2-shots it with the quick shoot, and that's the line, I think.
Okay, interesting. I thought that was still out of range of the Palkia, but I guess the guys down on the table discussed it, and they worked out the final result there. But yeah, that's going to be game 1 going to Magnus, it seems.
Yeah, and what a fantastic game again. Logan was sort of in the trenches there for most of that game, and I feel as if there wasn't a lot else he could have done. I feel as if he played that right. I feel as if he didn't do... I don't think I spotted anything that I wouldn't have done.
He did the Marnie at a good point to try and disrupt it, slowed down the process a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but that just goes to show you that this Articuno deck, on the back of LIC results, people immediately got scheming. Like, what is the weak point in Lugia's armor? And they discovered that a random holo rare that many considered bulk might be the option. So here we go again for game 2. And if you're Logan now, what are you thinking? How can I get around this?
Well, you saw that ending where the 2 Articuno were gone. You don't know there's an ordinary rod available, so you're definitely thinking about the Articuno chain only has so many turns where it can happen. And so you're going to be worried about it. You're going to try and be aggressive beforehand, especially if you're going first. Try and get some knockouts before the Articuno chain begins. And then as the Articuno chain ends, that's where you're going to have to be aggressive again and try and get knockouts, because you just don't have a huge amount of time once the Palkia V-Star comes out.
Ooh, that's a bit dangerous. 2 Iridas and a Drizzile in the prizes. That's not great. Irida is like the backbone for these Inteleon decks. What an amazing supporter. If anyone was playing back then, it was almost a bit like Karina. Karina was the same, but for fighting types and an item, and it was just as broken then as well.
And what about Volkner as well? It's kind of similar. I mean, it's a slightly different effect. That was an
kind of similar. I think was that for an energy and an item?
Energy and
lightning energy and an item. But either way, those sort of, it just gets silly. We saw there was a turn, wasn't it, where Magnus, I think, Shady Dealings for an Irida, and Irida found this, that, and the other. You just think you searched like 5 cards this turn. What's going on? Yeah,
it just helps with that search engine that we see there. And then there's that V-Guard energy.
V-Guard is prized. That's actually kind of
quite huge. A lot of energy prized actually there, 4 in the prizes, and we know how important keeping the resources of energy is. And we see a Palkia start and your Yveltal, neither optimal starts for both players.
Yeah, and that could be one route that Logan was hoping for, that Palkia actually comes down a little bit earlier, so that means it gives him access to 2 prizes really quick, and maybe he can try and maneuver around and just take 4 prizes the old-fashioned way. I know Magnus definitely doesn't want that Palkia being down anytime soon, so I think actually not a ton of switching cards for that Palkia. That Palkia might have to start attacking, because there's no switch, there's no rope, there's no anything like this, so that Palkia is going to be there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the Pokemon in this deck have quite low retreat costs, so similarly to the Lugia, you're willing to do retreats. So perhaps paralysis is the secret to beating paralysis.
Yeah.
But there is scoop up nets which work very well on the single prizes. Like you said, Palkia not having access to that scoop up net will put it in a sticky situation in the active spot, and could be an early 2-prize knockout for the Lugia. And I wonder with this deck, because it is a bit of a slower deck, we see a lot of the 1-prize decks working a bit slower, paralysis in particular. And I wonder if in this situation having that Palkia start in other games was enough to make him think, actually, I'm just going to try and get it in the next game. But there was the last time we saw these two decks play, first game was Articuno Paralysis, just over and over again against Lugia. And in the second game, the Palkia was the first attacker and knocked out a Lugia V-Star.
Yeah.
So you can completely flip it on its head and start with the Palkia V-Star getting an early big knockout and then finish off with the Paralysis, or you can go the other way around.
Yeah, for sure. I remember on that game yesterday because he prized both his Articunos. Magnus like, right, then I'm just playing Palkia and Inteleon for a bit. and then went to town. And make no mistake about it, I know Palkia probably doesn't have the greatest Lugia matchup because Lugia can just reach over the top. But Palkia Inteleon, in my opinion, was the best deck in format in the Lost Origin and Astral Radiance meta. It is by no means a bad deck now. It just might not have a good matchup against Lugia. But, you know, mess around a little bit, get some Articunos, get some Paralysis, eat some jelly, and all of a sudden you have a good matchup against Lugia.
Indeed, and we see that Sobble going down. So the first turn for Logan, some Archeops, I think there was just one that I saw going to discard pile, and a Lugia ready to evolve on the bench. So there is access to the typical Lugia route at the start, and going first would be able to get that summoning star off and begin the attacking process. And for the Palkia deck, it's not going to be able to get an attack off in first turn, so it's really just trying to set up as much of the board as possible to prepare for next turn.
Yeah, I wonder if we alluded to this actually yesterday. Magnus opting to go for the 1 copy of VIP Pass, opting to use it in combination with Irida. When 2 Iridas are prized, is Serena, using Serena to draw, and he's actually getting rid of a V-Star there. Interesting. I wonder from Logan's point of view, he's put down the Oranguru straight away, and he's got the Yveltal Amazing Rare in play. I wonder if he's going to try and opt to go like a 1-prize route, like have 1 necessary evil Lugia V-Star in play, but then maybe, you know, try and attack with a bit of whack down, you know, start attacking with the Charizard, start even attacking with the Archeops at this point. Oh, is he a turn 1 Marnie? Magnus' start's not the greatest, you know, only 1 Sobble down, an Articuno with an energy. This Palk still isn't going to be able to move anytime soon outside of like an early evolve Star Portal retreat. And you have to imagine, actually, if that was the case for an early Star Portal retreat, it might be really hard for Magnus to actually power up the Power Kit in the late game if he wants to, because there's no Melanie or anything like this.
Yeah, and you also got to bear in mind that hand from Magnus wasn't great, so that Marnie might have put him into a better hand as well. You know, there's no way Logan could know that.
Yeah.
But, the route to victory here is very unique and different for Magnus, especially going second. Normally when going second, wants to get that keep cooling off every time. But you can see for Logan,
I think that Marnie bricked him. I didn't see any way to get a V-Star. Worth also note another wrinkle to sort of keep tabs on here is Magnus had to use a Serena, not for a gust effect, so he only has 1 copy of Boss Orders left. Now, he does play a Power Pad, but at least immediately there's only 1 copy of Boss for him to use.
Yeah, and this what we're watching here for Logan is the biggest weakness of Lugia. Lugia is great once it's set up, but getting set up is the hardest part of the game, and that's why every player is trying to play as many outs to the Archeops, as many outs to the Evo Incense, Ultra Balls, Quick Balls, Capture Energies, everything to get that first turn set up. And you see here, unable to get the Lugia V-Star out turn 2, and so that's missing a beat of the rhythm that Logan's planning to get, and might open up the opportunity for a paralysis lock here.
And I feel as if it's these games that really separate, you know, good players from great players. These games where you don't draw well, your opponent draws well. You're both sort of freestyling a little bit here with your game plans, and when you have to sort of grind out victories the old-fashioned way. And both these players, obviously world-class players. Magnus was a seniors world champion. Logan Madden, a 9th place finish at Liverpool last year. He's a fantastic player in his own right. But here we do see the Drizzar come down. And it's almost like Logan has lost his going first advantage here, right? Because there is no Lugia V-Star, there is no Archeops, and now Magnus trying to operate here. And I'm intrigued to see what he does about this power key. He might even just start trying to attack, to be honest.
And I love the way Magnus is working through his deck here. It's very clear that he's got a pathway he's thought of.
Yes.
The moment you get that first Drizzar down, it opens up a chain for you to do whatever you want. Then you get the Iridas out, and so in his head he's seen a route to do exactly what he needs to do this turn, and he is producing it right now. And What we mentioned about the V-Star not being able to attack first turn, as you mentioned, the sort of missing of a turn from Logan opens up the potential for a V-Star knockout onto one of the Lugia V. And so we might see that aggressive Palkia Inteleon strategy come through here. And there's a Greninja that's going to help get water into the discard pile, opening it up for the Star Portal, and help draw for Magnus, get more options. And now we're starting to see those water fill up in the discard pile to try and increase the value of Star Portal.
Yeah, we see a scoop. This could be on the Greninja, or it's going to be on the Sobble. Here we see another Shady D. I think that Sobble's actually benched just now. I don't think you can evolve that one. I'm fairly certain that's benched. Here we do see the Palkia. Now, there is one water in discard part, and it has got a wash in hand, so we could see a Subspace Swell here. I imagine, Subspace Swell, a Star Portal, I should say. We could see that here. And we do, only for the one target, but that might be all you need when Logan is sort of twiddling his thumbs at this moment in time. I actually think Logan's hand was pretty dire. I didn't see any support or anything for this. And we just see a Subspace Well for the KO. What does he top deck? What does he have?
Yeah, and this is the challenge with Marnie. We're seeing Marnie be used all over the place, but it's making it harder and harder for everyone to get their deck set up.
Oh, he's got a research.
Okay, research there. That's going to open up the best opportunity to find...
Oh, this is a concession? Oh, no, I thought he was extending the fist pump now. So way too early for that, Magnus, surely.
Yeah. Well, the research is the best way to find your most important cards in this matchup because it's a 7 dig off the top of the deck. The chance of you finding any of your outs, like an Evolution Incense, just straight up a Lugia V-Star or the Ultra Ball, very likely at this point. And at this, the lack of instant playing of that from Logan, to me, is a sign that it might not be there. And so the quick ball coming through now.
That would be disastrous if there's still no V-Star. But it's funny you mentioned about how crazy, Professor's research is. But in the last Origin meta, there weren't many decks that played it. I was saying to my friend the other day, I was like, do you imagine there was a time in Lost Origin where almost no decks were playing research? Absolutely insane. And now Lugia is the first deck to be right. Let's get this discard draw 7 action.
Yeah, it was generally with decks that played Arceus that we saw Professor's research. Other than that, you don't really want to be discarding your hand when you're playing Lost Engine. Yeah. You don't want to be discarding your hand when you're playing a Mew, because drawing into 7, it's not really worth it. You're happy to draw into a Marnie and start playing cards and drawing up with the Genesect. So you're right, Professor's Research, one of the most effective draw supporters in the game, is finally coming back to play. Yeah,
and even towards the end of the format, the sort of our Tina deck started right towards the end, started playing Chorus as their sort of support of choice, opting not to discard stuff. And I was thinking, I've got these 4 Rainbow Rare Research and I don't get to use them.
Yeah, and then even the Inteleon line, having the Irida package is so much more effective than discarding your hand.
Oh my goodness, Logan has actually missed the V-Star again.
My goodness.
Oh no, not like this. Not like this.
And that double attachment onto the active is all well and good, but it's not going to be able to lead to much if the Palkia just instantly knocks it out and takes away those resources, because like you said, we need that V-Star, otherwise there is no opportunity to get the Archeops out, and without those Archeops, these attack costs are far too high on the Lugias. So Magnus, first game was all paralysis, this game is all watching Lugia struggle to get its plan in action. And Magnus will be licking his lips knowing that his deck has that tempo ability with Palkia, and that he luckily started with it in this game where the Lugia was struggling to get going.
Yeah, I wonder if that's sort of if that's Magnus's like decision tree almost. Like if he leads Palkia, it's like, right, we're playing Palkia Intel for a bit until the Palkia gets knocked out. But
also maybe a game 2 strategy of like, let me go aggressive game 2.
Yeah.
I mean, on this occasion, he didn't really have much choice, did he? That Palkia hasn't moved from the active spot. It's just stood there and started swinging with that subspace swell as early as possible.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess it's capitalizing perfectly on this Lugia start. One of the sort of main weaknesses is that, some decks, if you're not drawing 100%, you can still like at least attack, right? You can still do some damage. But if Lugia, if those Archeops don't come down, you are doing nothing. Like, you are literally just reaping the wind, and that's it.
See the Drizzle there, ready to come in.
We see the Power Pad there to get back maybe that Serene. I think there might be a Boss's Orders in hand as well, I believe. Not that it would really matter. You probably just want to hit the active here.
Yeah, I mean, it's Lugia V, or Lugia V. I'd rather take the Lugia V with energy.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah.
Unless he's really scared of the Oranguru whap down on the bench, so he might target that. But at this point, taking those 2 prizes is key. And Magnus's deck is not only working great now with the subspace well every turn, but it's just setting up for future turns, as we see now 3 Sobbles and Drizzles ready to evolve up into quick shootings, ready to evolve up into the Shady Dealing and Inteleon for more search. And the Palkia is just going to remain there, swinging hard, until Lugia start to evolve.
And we even start seeing that Articuno just in the back, getting ready slowly but surely. I'm going to say that's a KO, isn't it? Yeah, and that's a KO. And Magnus goes down to 3 prize cards. Can Logan get
You see the flurry there,
yeah.
please.
What did he get?
That's a lot of energy right there in that hand.
Collapse, energy, charge. There's a research, but there's like six or 5 energy.
Yeah, Mike. This is the worst hand you see after a research, is when you research into all of your energy. Because early on, your energy is your biggest card in the deck. You see so many of them, right? You see 16 energy frequently in Lugia V-Star, and so with that, a lot of the time, you do draw into your energies.
I think the players were just trying to work out if there was any extra energy attachment, but I don't believe there was. So
I think there was one attachment to the Articuno last time.
Yeah, one
right?
attachment to the Articuno. There was one attachment to the Power Kid and the Star Paw, and I believe there's just one on the Articuno before. So I think everything's untoward there. I mean, everything's fine, I should say. That's going to be a costly research if you choose to play it. Is this in a...
I think that's a resignation showing of the hand there, maybe, or like, hang on, you're with me on this journey right now. This is Lugia at its finest. Look at what I got going on here.
I guess Oran Guru might have been able to save one. There's a collapse.
He's playing the shiny green card right now. Look at the way he's playing. Could play anything.
Oh my goodness. Will we see like a turn 4 or turn 5 Lugia V-Star? Let's find out together.
There it is.
Yay. We got there eventually.
Magnus is helping him out. Look at this.
Oh, but you can only put 1 Archeops because of the collapsed. Oh no.
And that means he has to use a double turbo energy, which reduces the damage potentially out of range of a knockout.
Yeah, we've got powerful and a choice belt. Trying to think. So
240, 260, 290 minus double turbo is 270.
Oh goodness.
So this is not looking good for Logan.
Times.
Oh no. There we go. The darkness.
The collapse stage. Oh my goodness.
Hiding darkness energy.
Oh, I love Logan.
Double turbo energy. That's going to be 250 damage, I think, on the Palkia. And I think I mean we can't see exactly what they're thinking right now, but you can see by their eyes they are having a good chuckle.
Yeah.
They are laughing around with this. Both these players doing so well here at Stuttgart Regional, getting those 8 wins. Logan's been sat on that top table all day, to start off on the feature table and have probably the worst draw of the tournament he's had so far. And to be up against a deck that has found the perfect counter to a switchless Lugia V-Star. A very unfortunate situation for Logan, but he has done so well already, and we probably will be seeing him continue this success into the rest of today and maybe see him in that top 8.
It's a bit unfortunate. He had the Lost Vacuum in hand. He didn't Lost Vacuum in the collapse before doing the Summon Star. Might be able to get 2 Archeops there in play, but... Oh, there's a boss, and this also as well as a KO, and now Max goes down to 1 prize. I'll shuffle in 2 gust options here, I would imagine.
And that's why this Palpad's so good in the deck, because there is a lot of one-of. Got Roxanne, Boss, Serena, there's 2 Raihan. All of them are cards that you might want to get an extra usage out of later on. So if you Palpad them halfway through the game, you can start doubling them up in your deck. And so this Palpad going to get value on the Gust effect, and we start seeing that Drizzle chain going now. And the quick shooting might come down to start getting some damage down on the Lugia V-Star, putting it within range. And everything now going in favour of Magnus as he's got that Articuno ready to do the paralysis lock after this.
Yeah, like this Palkia has just been swinging, just started off inactive, and Magnus like, right, go on then, go to work then, lad. And Palkia's just, right then, let's go, 5 prizes. He's doing quite well.
Okay, so he needs another basic down, so that's going to be 8 basic Pokemon, 8 bench Pokemon down, which is a 220 hit for the Palkia V-Star. Doesn't need that choice belt anymore. That's going to be enough to get the Lugia V out of play, and now there's 1 prize needed for Magnus, and he's put damage all over the board. Knows he's got access to the gusting effect next turn if he searches for it. He has that quick shooting to be able to put stuff in range. He's expecting the Palkia to get knocked out at this point, so he's probably going to be going down the paralysis lock route. And Logan knows what that feels like. He felt it last game.
Yeah.
He's playing this out knowing that, it's worth having a go, see how this deck works. Download as much information on it as possible, because they might be playing each other again later on in that top 8.
No, this is very true. Like, as this game or this round hasn't gone Logan's way so far, it doesn't mean he's out of it. He was the first seed coming into this, I believe. So plenty of opportunity for Logan still, like you said, get into that top 8 where they might match each other again. you know. So yeah, just download information, try and work out card counts, you know, how many of this did you play, how many of that did you play, which could all prove critical, you know. But there's been plenty of times where people have lost to opponent in Swiss. I even covered Harrogate Regionals, I believe, where Philip played the same person twice in Swiss, and then on day 2 lost both times, and then beat him in top cut and just froze the boss's orders.
He's just gonna I thought he was
the Articuno.
I thought he was asking, can I read that card?
I like that, throwing the boss's orders at the Pokemon you want to boss.
Yeah, paralysing me.
This is just like a little bit of Logan, always as animated. If you know Logan personally, you know this is
I mean, this is it. Pokemon. We all play this for fun. We all play Pokemon for fun, and Logan really showing there, despite being in a losing position there, despite playing against an amazing counter deck to the switchless Lugia V-Star, still able to appreciate it, enjoy the game. You know, in an amazing position here now on 8-1-1. So we'll be looking to continue that success today in day 2 at Stuttgart. But Magnus continues his journey with that Palkia V-Star, with the Articuno. My new favourite player, and I'm excited to see him continue through day 2. What a way to start off the show.
Yeah, Mike's very happy. You didn't see it there because the camera on us, but he was like, Magnus got the win, did the fist bump, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I've come into this event. I was a big fan of Palkia V-Star, mainly because it's the cards that I have access to, but that disruption route is so good with the deck.
Yeah.
And to use that Articuno with the emergency jelly, something a lot of us weren't expecting to see, but it's had success in Brisbane, and it's now here having success in Stuttgart, and I'm sure we'll see it as well in Toronto.
Yeah, we saw it I saw a little bit on Swiss, even a slightly different variant there as well. So there's different options, but I believe we're actually going to have a player's interview next.
I might get to
very excited. You get to talk to your favourite player. How excited are you?
See you in a bit. Hello, I am back here with Magnus. I'm very excited to have a chat with you. It's the first time we've met, but I'm now a massive fan of yours, having watched your games, mostly because of this amazing deck that you piloted. How did you come up with this Articuno, Palkia and Teleon deck?
Well, the start of it wasn't actually me coming up with it. It was my friend. I came back from LASC where I played Lugia, and the deck just felt horrible to play. Like I didn't feel like I had much say in whoever won the game. And he showed me the deck, and I was like, yeah, like I might not be able to test it much, but no way I'm not playing this. It looks way more fun.
Yeah, it does look a lot of fun, and we saw you yesterday on stream. You got that Articuno lock. You came back from them needing 2 prizes, you needing 6, and you just chained it over and over again. And there's a lot of search, obviously, with the Inteleon line and Irida. You're able to find exactly what you want. What I want to know, and actually what Shay wants to know, he asked me to ask you, when do you change up the game plan from the Articuno line to the Palkia? Is there ever a time where you'd start Palkia deliberately, or like we saw in that second game?
Depends on my start. If sometimes I would want to, like if he gets a slow start, like only Velukia, not much else. It's kind of good to bench from Palkia and pressure him into evolving and trying to get up a Palkia, and I can put pressure on him. Otherwise, if I just try to do the Articuno and he has a slow start, I'm not doing much, so he can just get what he wants in like turn 3, and it won't change anything.
Okay, so it's if they're slow, you go aggressive, and if they're aggressive, you try and slow them down with the Articuno.
Yeah.
So you've got multiple strategies to work there. With the Emergency Jelly, it's a card that a lot of us didn't know existed.
Yeah.
Was that always part of the strategy, or was that after realizing that Articuno needed another few turns of attacks?
I almost played 2 actually. The card is really good in the deck. Like I almost played a 1/1 Palkia and 1/1 Vulpix, but I ended up going with Palkia in the end. Yeah. So the main strategy of the deck is to like try and do the Articuno thing against. So yeah. So
and I guess the main reaction is there's not many switch outs for the Lugia, so you're able to punish them with the paralysis. What's the game plan then against something like a Lost Box where that paralysis line isn't going to be as effective?
My Lost Box matchup is a bit more sketchy. I feel like I play Ice Q, which against some lists I might be able to go alone Ice Q, and when like if I'm playing a control deck, and other times with the double quick shooting I'm playing, I can pressure like Manaphy and so on, so I can take 3 prizes and so on by putting 40 on Manaphy until they can scoop up net it, and then do Green Ninja the same turn.
So you're looking to try and play sort of the Palkia and Teleon strategy of old against Lost Box, where you have a big Palkia and then all these other different attackers, and maybe sometimes use the Shady Dealing and Teleon?
Oh yeah, and try to use the 1 price set tag, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've done an amazing job so far, and you're now, I think, number 1 with that win, because that's going to put you at 9 wins.
Probably, yeah.
So doing amazing work, and hopefully we'll see you in top 8. Maybe we'll see you again during the Swiss. But I just want to say, on behalf of everyone at home, you've entertained us by seeing Lugia struggle against a new deck. Is there anything you want to say before we go to break?
Well, I should probably thank Oscar Madsen, the guy who gave me the original list, right? But yeah.
Okay, maybe Oscar's my new favourite player.
Maybe.
Thank you very much for coming on here and chatting. Give you a bit of a break now to go reset, as I think the pairings are up. So good luck with the rest of your games, and hopefully we get to chat again soon.
Yeah, thank you.